Have you ever really stopped to think about what the huge, heavy battery under the hood of your car has in common with the tiny, sleek one inside your phone? I mean, they seem like they're from different planets, right? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the one universal secret that powers them all. So let's get charged up and dive right in.
It really all comes down to one simple, elegant principle. It's like a chemical dance that's happening billions and billions of times a second inside every single device you own. So what is this incredible, hidden secret? Okay, here it is. The secret is that no matter what kind of battery we're talking about, whether it's made of lead or nickel or lithium, every single one is built from the same four fundamental parts. If you can get your head around these four players, you can understand how any battery works. It's that simple.
First up, we've got the anode. That's the negative side. Think of it as the starting block in a race. It's made of a material that is just dying to get rid of its electrons. This process, losing electrons, is called oxidation, and it's basically the starting pistol that kicks off the whole flow of power.
And on the other side of the track, you have the cathode, the positive terminal. This is the finish line. It's just waiting there ready to welcome those electrons that the anode sent on their journey. This process of gaining electrons is called reduction. And hey, here's a handy little trick to remember this. Oil rig. Oxidation is loss. Reduction is gain. Now, you might be wondering what's happening between the anode and cathode. Well, that's where the electrolyte comes in. This isn't for the electrons. Nope, they're taking the scenic route through your device, doing all the hard work. The electrolyte is like a special chemical highway just for ions, which are basically charged atoms. They shuttle back and forth to keep everything chemically balanced. It's a crucial job.
And finally, we have the unsung hero of the whole operation, the separator. It's just a simple, porous little wall that sits between the anode and the cathode and keeps them from touching. Because if they ever did touch, poof, all the electrons would rush across at once, creating a massive short circuit. So this little barrier is an absolutely critical safety feature.
So, let's put the whole thing together, see it in action. The anode kicks out electrons. Those electrons travel through your phone, lighting up the screen and powering the processor. At the same time, ions cruise through the electrolyte to keep the charges balanced. And finally, those electrons finish their trip at the cathode. That's it. This whole beautiful process just happens spontaneously, creating the electricity we rely on.
All right, now that we have the universal blueprint for any battery, let's see how it applies to a real-world classic. I'm talking about the absolute workhorse that starts millions of cars every single day, the lead-acid battery. You know, a lead-acid battery is wonderfully simple. The anode is just plain old lead. The cathode is a paste of lead dioxide, and they're both just sitting in a bath of sulfuric acid, which acts as the electrolyte. That's the recipe. It's a simple, potent combination that's been getting the job done for over 100 years. Now, this simple chemistry gives you some really clear pros and cons. On the plus side, it's cheap, it's tough as nails, and it can deliver that massive jolt of power you need to crank a cold engine. But on the downside, it's incredibly heavy. I mean, seriously heavy. And traditionally, you have to top it off with water and it can vent flammable gas. So yeah, definitely not something you want to carry around in your pocket.
But what if you could take the good parts of lead acid, the power and the low cost, and get rid of the annoying parts? Well, that's exactly where more advanced, sealed chemistries come into the picture. So on the left, you've got your classic car battery, a flooded cell with liquid acid literally sloshing around inside. But on the right, you see a valve-regulated lead acid, or VRLA battery. The game-changing innovation here is that the electrolyte isn't a liquid anymore. It's either soaked up into a fiberglass mat or turned into a gel. And that one little change makes it totally spill-proof and maintenance-free.
So how in the world does it become maintenance-free? Well, it uses this really clever trick called the oxygen recombination cycle. See, in a normal battery, charging can split water into hydrogen and oxygen gas, which just escapes. But in a VRLA battery, the oxygen gets trapped and is guided back over to the negative plate, where it finds some hydrogen and turns right back into water. It's basically recycling its own water, so you never have to top it off. Genius. Next up, let's look at a less common but really interesting player, the nickel-zinc battery. With this one, we're using zinc for the anode, a nickel compound for the cathode, and an alkaline electrolyte. It's a completely different recipe for making power. So what does this different recipe get you? For starters, a higher voltage. A standard AA battery is about 1.5 volts, and a rechargeable one is usually only 1.2 volts. But a nickel-zinc cell, it clocks in at around 1.65 volts. That extra bit of oomph can really make a difference in certain high-drain devices.
That higher voltage is great, and it's a bit more environmentally friendly too. But it has what you might call a fatal flaw: zinc dendrites. Over time, these tiny, sharp, needle-like crystals of zinc can literally grow inside the battery. Eventually, they can poke right through the separator, causing a short and killing the cell. And that really limits how many times you can recharge it.
Which brings us to the undisputed champion of the modern world, the technology that cut the cord from the wall and put a supercomputer into every single one of our pockets. Of course, I'm talking about lithium-ion.
So why did lithium-ion completely take over? It comes down to two magic words: energy, density. It can pack an unbelievable amount of power into a very small, very lightweight package. This is the secret sauce that makes our modern world of smartphones, laptops, and electric cars even possible. The magic behind lithium-ion isn't some harsh chemical reaction. It's actually a much more gentle, elegant process called intercalation. Think of the anode and cathode like two big layered apartment buildings. The tiny lithium ions are the residents. During charging, they move into one building, and during discharging, they move into the other. Because the buildings themselves don't really change, the residents can move back and forth thousands of times very efficiently.
So the pros are just revolutionary. The highest energy density out there, super lightweight, a long cycle life. But what about the cons? Well, the main one is safety. All that concentrated energy means if a lithium-ion battery gets damaged or punctured, it can lead to a dangerous chain reaction called thermal runaway. That's why they have so many complex safety circuits built right in.
So after looking at all these different types, you're probably asking, okay, so which one's the best? And the answer is none of them, or maybe all of them. It really truly just depends on what you needed to do.
This little table really makes the trade-offs crystal clear. Do you need a cheap, powerful punch to start a car and you couldn't care less about weight? Lead-acid is your champion, hands down. But do you need the absolute most power you can get in the tiniest, lightest package possible for a drone or a phone? Then you've got to pay the premium for lithium-ion. It's always about picking the right tool for the job.
And this chart, wow. This really drives home the single biggest reason our modern electronics look the way they do. Just look at the staggering difference in energy density. That huge bar on the right is why your phone isn't powered by a tiny car battery. The amount of energy lithium-ion can cram into a given space is just in a completely different league. It's what makes our portable world possible.
You know, as we move toward an all-electric future, from our cars to the power grid itself, the real question isn't what's the best battery, it's what's the right mix of chemistries for all the different jobs we need done. The hunt for better, safer, and cheaper ways to store energy is one of the biggest engineering challenges of our lifetime. And these batteries, they're at the very heart of it all, especially the critical power devices that keep our world up and running. If you're really interested in a deep dive on that side of things, specifically uninterruptible power supplies, you should check out the book Mastering Uninterruptible Power Supplies, Field Service Engineering. It's available on Amazon. Thanks for watching. So what chemistry do you think is going to power our future?
Order your copy today, available exclusively on Amazon.